Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And when you talk about being the change you want to see in the world, we're super excited and we're honored to have with us Pastor Frank Stevenson. He's the senior pastor with Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, a City of Grace. How are you doing?
I am wonderful and excited to be with you today. And I want to start off by saying thank you for all of the work that you do and continue to do to showcase some very important things happening across the cities and the country. And thank you for just making sure that these stories are told.
Absolutely. Well, when you talk about creating good news, powering the good, and sharing the good news, obviously that's a huge part of this storyline. And so let's start with a little bit of context. Give us some background on Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, a City of Grace.
Absolutely. Friendship Missionary Baptist Church is located in Nashville, Tennessee, with over 85 years of history. And I tell you, we are excited to be a church that's very intentional about making community impact. And so most of the people who are associated with this church understand our mission, which is part of just being servant leaders and making sure we are intentional on how we serve our community. I'm excited to serve as the senior pastor, but the real work is all of the folk who just love our fellow neighbors.
When you talk about the church, obviously you have the power of transformation, of forgiveness, of Christ in the church. But when you talk about being a church body outside of those four walls and giving back and making a difference in so many ways, talk about why that's so important to you personally and for your congregation.
Absolutely. Personally, I am a benefactor of those who were able to help a single mom. My mom was a single mom raising us in the housing projects, and I saw the good work of good people that really was a benefit to our community. And I wanted to make sure we adopted that. In a more theological fashion, I think the example that Christ gave where he washed his disciples' feet is the model that we, obviously try to emulate, where we're willing to be the one that wants to make someone's journey better. Obviously, in this day and time, we all wear shoes and our feet don't get as dusty from the journey. But in terms of life getting us dusty and being able to kind of wash each other's feet in terms of just making your trip better if we encounter each other, a humbling way. You can't wash feet standing up. So it just means that you're humble and you care about the well-being of others and just being good neighbors. And so that's kind of what motivates us in that sense, in terms of just being good neighbors, looking out for other people. We don't complain. There was a man who was complaining about not having shoes, walked down the street and met a man with no feet. Someone is always a little worse off than you. And so what you do is take your platform to lift someone else up. There's a thirst of the soul that can only be quenched except through the sincere generosity of helping someone else with no repayment expected in return. And that's kind of our motto.
You all do so much. So when you talk about kind of sharing the story of the different programs and it's working with youth and seniors and food. So how do you like to share the story of the different programs and all that you do?
Yeah, it's really important that we are concerned about the least, the lost, the left out, especially in a country as rich as ours, and so most of the services and programs we do is what I call bootstrap initiatives, literally giving people the bootstraps to pick themselves up. It's hard to pick yourself up by bootstraps if you don't have bootstraps. So basic needs and just helping people have the tools to be better is kind of a part of our mission. Certainly as it relates to food insecurities, we're going to be right there. We did a program a few years ago where we went to the housing projects that still didn't have central heat and air. And, July was just horrific. And we gave out free air conditions to all of those residents who needed one. And we installed them, window units, but it was necessary. So those are the kind of things that where the rubber meets the road in terms of meeting needs and helping people. That's where we kind of lean in. As it relates to youth, we understand that making impact on the lives of youth is so important. So the programs that we have designed around wraparound services for youth is important and growing as we're getting ready to launch our after school program. Seniors are typically sometimes a forgotten group, particularly those who are on fixed incomes, who are making decisions between medicine and a good meal. But we try to make that a little easier. We feed them, we give them opportunities to practice cognitive skills so that they can stay active. Those are things that are really important to us. And simple check-in, how are you doing today? We've adopted a couple of senior towers that are based on income. So we know these people don't have a lot of money. And we fix them a meal every month, but we also go on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas Day, and we provide a full meal. We become their family for a lot of these individuals, and we provide gifts and those type of things. We help single moms. Again, that's probably a greater passion for me. You know, I saw my mom struggling to make Christmas special for us, and she would start in July saving, and there was a thing called layaway, and she'd go put gifts and things on layaway, And so we just want to wrap our arms around a lot of single moms who are struggling in this season, and so that they don't have the heaviness of trying to figure that out.
Talk about how that ties into fighting isolation, like with the seniors, and tying into mental health and healing. So touch on kind of that aspect of the active service, but how that ties into the mental and spiritual side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We really believe that we're made to be connected. I mean, and again, from a biblical perspective, God said it's not good for man to be alone. So we're designed to be in communion with each other. And when we get into isolation, that is indeed really effective on our mental health, and being well is so important. And so we are intentional about, first of all, sharing the message that it's okay not to be okay. And we may all have some of those days and some of those spaces. Secondly, that we want to make sure that we are reaching out so people don't feel lonely or don't feel left out or don't feel a space of hopelessness, which is obviously one of the greatest contributors to suicide, that feeling of hopelessness. And so we've been knocking on the door of making sure we're checking on our seniors and checking on people who we haven't seen, and just being a community advocate for inclusion.
How have these programs and this work transformed your view, your congregation's view of how you can be literally the physical hands of Christ and be a catalyst for transformation in the community? So how has this work really transformed your view and your congregation's view?
Yeah, I mean, that was a parable, that was a story that Jesus gave in the Bible. And he said, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was in prison, you wouldn't visit me. When I was in the hospital, you would come and see me. And the folk he was talking to said, we never saw you. Certainly, if we had seen you, Jesus, we would have certainly came and visited you. We would gave you some food and clothing and all of those things. And Jesus said, as you've done to the least of these, you've done also to me. In other words, that you had a responsibility. You are your brother's keeper. And so that message of responsibility to community and neighborhood, we cannot be well and ignore people who are not. It is not the Christ-like behavior or attitude that anyone should have. And because we're okay, and because the Lord has blessed us with jobs and homes and financial resources, it's to me it's distasteful to ignore the needs of the community. Matter of fact, there was a rich man that the Lord called a fool. He called him a fool because the man says, hey, I've done very well. I'm going to tear down my smaller barns. I'm going to build bigger barns. He says, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. He had nothing in there about how he would help the community. His whole goal was to throw a great party and to build a bigger storehouse so he can have more stuff. The Bible says that the Lord says, thou fool. You were planning just for you, but unfortunately, your soul will be required of you. I don't want the Lord to call me a fool. I want him to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. You've been a blessing to the other communities. I want him to smile on the work that we are doing. And that's our motivation.
You also serve on other community boards and with different organizations. And so talk about your role and how it ties in. You're a part of the Metro Authority Hospital Board, also a part of the Nashville Predators Foundation Board. So when you look at your past and also how that ties into board service in the community to make an even larger difference, talk about why that's so important and some of those pieces of your storyline.
Absolutely. I'm very intentional about boards that I serve on. I don't want a board for status or just to be in the in crowd. I want a board that moves the needle on things that I find important. So serving on the Metro Hospital Authority Board, and I've been on this board for 8 years, and I now serve as the chair of the city hospital, the public hospital here, that's providing great care and wraparound services to individuals who really need those services. And we've been expanding it. We're very intentional about the care that they receive there. We have initiated two new off-campus sites in the community where individuals can access care. And so we're very proud of that work. And, we're now trying to really motivate the city and the mayor that it's time for a new facility. And so we've got that campaign going on. We've got a new football stadium going up. And I'd love for a new hospital to be going up in that same time frame. So we'll see what happens there. But it's really important work. I mean, I tell you, I don't think there's nothing more important than just being able to be well, whether you can afford it or not. We, again, as the richest country in the world, we have an obligation to make sure we're sharing those resources with individuals who need it. I also have the blessed privilege of serving on the Predators Foundation. And I must admit, I'm not a big hockey fan. I go to the games. I enjoy the games, but I'm really not a big hockey fan. But I'm a big fan of the Predators and the work that they do in our community. And the work that they do is amazing. They give out many grants to organizations, typically that are focused on services around how we can support children and youth. And so I have an opportunity to review those applications, have an opportunity to have influence on who gets some of those grant funding, and also just to see the process and how engaged the Predators are in this community. They're not just an organization that's just here to take from the community, but they've been very intentional. The Predators Foundation has been very intentional about how they give back. So I'm excited to be a part of that work. Absolutely. I also serve as the chair of a board called My Father's House. It's a program that's designed to unite fathers with their children, typically those who have had some issues, drugs or incarceration. We want to stand those men back up because it's so important for those men to be involved in their children's lives. And sometimes they just need the wraparound services to get back on their feet. So My Father's House has now 3 houses in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're doing some great work. And I'm proud of Thomas Gooch and Ron Sissy, who are coordinators and directors of that program, for the work that they're doing in that space.
See, so much good news to share. I love it. When you talk about someone who says, hey, where do I get involved? How do I get involved? How do I be a blessing to others? Share a couple of tips and recommendations. When you talk about being the change you want to see in the world, where does it start? Obviously, being a part of your congregation, but, share a couple of tips and recommendations for where others can start making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people to kind of move in a space of your passion, because there's not a one size fit all, particularly as it relates for how you're helping your neighbor, helping your community. For some people, it feels good when they're able to share their resources. So they may not go and get their hands dirty, but that's okay, because there are resources that they have of giving $20 or giving on the annual giving day to whatever organization. There's other people who can give of their time. When we have giveaways, we need volunteers that can come and prepare food boxes. And so giving of your time is also important. Giving of your resources, giving of your time, but also I think it's really important. And this is one of the things I think some people minimize, but is really, really important. But giving of the conversation. So sometimes we just need one neighbor talking to another neighbor saying, what do you think about this? Or how can we help in this space? And so lending your voice to the issues that are prevalent in our communities is important as well.
We're talking with Pastor Frank Stevenson, senior pastor with Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, a City of Grace. Talk about how the community can support your efforts, support your church, and then obviously where do we go to learn more and take those next steps?
Absolutely. So we are excited that we have some things coming up here. First of all, we're going to support 100 single moms in terms of providing for their children, and we're giving each child a $50 gift. And so certainly you can go to our website if you'd like to contribute to that. All of the money, every dime of it, will go to children in the Nashville community and supported by single moms who who are limited in the income that they have. And so we encourage you to go to our website and to look for an opportunity to give in that space. Also, again, on our website, you'll see some volunteer opportunities where we're having food drives come up, and they bring those big trucks. We unload them, we load them, and we take names and we write all that information down. So there's a space for any and everyone who'd like to help in that capacity. This may sound old-fashioned, but I certainly would also appreciate the prayers of those in the community to continue to pray for the work that we're doing so that we can indeed make real impact. We're not waiting. We're going to do what piece we can. We're not a huge church. We're not a church with millions of dollars or anything. We are really grassroots, neighbor helping neighbor, and we hope that catches on.
Well, mention website. Where do we go to carry this conversation forward?
Absolutely. So we have several opportunities for you so you can reach us. We're on Facebook. You can just put Friendship Nashville, Instagram as well. Go to our website, Friendship Church. And I want you all to know that I think I can say it now. We also now have an app. So you can go to the App Store in Google and Apple and download our app, and then you'll have access to everything. So it's the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church in Nashville app. If you Google that in the App Store, you'll have all of our information.
Awesome. Well, Pastor Frank Stevenson, thank you for all you and your amazing team and congregation do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jeremy, for continuing to spread this good news and good work.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.